worked. Okay. Apparently, I don't know how to use the banner thing or the brand thing, that video that plays at the beginning. Welcome to the Writing Gals. We are super excited to chat with you guys today about the stages of intimacy. It is a new month. It is February, which means it is the love month. And we are going to talk all about lovey-dovey type of stuff. So, which we're all romance authors, so we all love. But we do have a big announcement. Michelle's pregnant though.
You were gonna start crazy.
Sorry, you just look so excited by this announcement. No, Michelle's not pregnant. None of us are pregnant.
That announcement, okay?
No. Woo! Now I'm like super red in the face. We have asked Laura Burton to be our new writing gal, and though we know we can never replace Judy, we are super excited to have Laura, who's going to be across the pond from us and adding her little British flair to our podcast and to our group. So we are very, very excited about that. We know that there has been some whisperings about it, but this is now the official declaration. She is joining us. We are very, very excited.
Do you have those in America?
Crackers?
Yeah.
No.
Coffers.
Well, you can only find them in international stores.
Did it shoot anything out of it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You should have done it and then told me, and then I could have had it like come over here. Like I could have.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Next time we bring Laura on the Writing Gals.
We'll do a redo, okay? So we're very excited, and she will be an admin as well, so kind of helping us behind the scenes, helping us run the conferences and all that kind of stuff. So we're very excited. As soon as she heard Judy was no longer with us, she messaged me and said, hey, if you guys need more help. So if you think that we booted Judy for Laura, that is not what happened at all. We love Judy. We wanted Judy to have what she needed to leave the Writing Gals. This was not planned at all. We're grateful for unexpected plans. So,
and it's kind of like it's an example to everybody. If you want something, you need to go after it like Laura did, because
yeah, you got to ask.
Yes, but it wasn't just that she asked; it's that we totally adore her. We love her personality. We love her willingness to support the community and give back. And I think that that's what really pushed me towards saying, yes, let's bring her on, because she wants to give back to the community so much. And she's so generous about sharing things even that are hard, like her failures and things that didn't always go right. And so she's got the right heart and mindset for this gig.
Absolutely. So. I am thrilled to death that Laura spoke up and said, hey, do you need help? Because we just love having her on here.
And also, I think it's proof that even the biggest name authors, any author can provide stuff to the community. Like Michelle was saying, like it's consistent income, it's consistent releasing, consistent writing. Like I think, because we talked about this too, like there are big name authors making a lot of money, and that's amazing. But the people that I want you to pay attention to are the people that are consistently showing up, consistently making the same amount of money, because those are careers that you're going to be able to be happy and ones you're going to be able to replicate. So, all right, let's start with Laura. What are you doing besides becoming a new writing gal?
Well, I've gone deep down in the TikTok rabbit hole. This month, I'm declaring TikTok month for me. I'm going to just go all in. So I have shut off all of my ads, which makes me feel very vulnerable. But I watched a video with Dwayne Johnson where he's like, you got to have your back to the wall because then you can only go forward. And I was like, okay. So I did it. So now I'm like, right, I'm just going to do TikTok videos and see what happens. And then, so that's been a bit all consuming at the moment. And I'm editing a fantasy at the moment. It's a Little Mermaid retelling where our Little Mermaid falls in love with Captain Hook. So it's like, it's good. It sounds like an odd pairing, but it's very good. But yeah, I have not been writing anything new this week. My brain has just been broken since COVID, so I'm just going to go with what I can do. And at the moment, it wants to make videos and do a bit of editing. So that's all I'm doing.
That's awesome. I've seen those unlikely pairings, and one that I would have never thought of was Jasmine and Jafar.
Oh, yeah. Okay, maybe not the
Okay.
Disney version.
Yeah,
It
maybe
has
not
to be
that
like a
one.
sexy Jafar.
There's a reason we haven't thought about that one.
Yeah, right. So, okay, cool. Well, all of them sound awesome. Me and Laura are doing TikTok together, so we are always messaging each other. I think I figured this out, and then we're like, okay, maybe we didn't, but maybe it's this is gonna do amazing. So, it's been a lot of fun. Cool. Well, it's exciting, and you're doing amazing with your fairy tale. Hold on.
Real life, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, so Amy and I both have kids home today because our schools were canceled because of snow.
Yes, the
In
big
Arkansas,
storm.
that happens.
Yeah, and they're close tomorrow too. So,
yeah.
Thank goodness I have my husband home, because then I can just be like tied upstairs in my room. Anyway, so cool, awesome. All right, Michelle, what are you up to?
Let's see. This week I finished writing the last episode of my co-written Kindle Bella story. So now we're working on doing like the final edit and starting to, work on all the things to publish it as an ebook. But it was a big relief. You know how when you finish any project, it's a huge relief to like put that one away and be able to move on to the ones that are like super exciting for you.
Absolutely.
And so it's just kind of a weight to be like, okay, that project's done. So now I can start working on another one. And then me and these ladies kind of were having a talk about genre expectations for rom-com, and I got excited about an idea that I have. And so I'm like reshuffling my whole writing schedule so that I can put out a new rom-com sooner than I planned. Yeah, I'm so excited. It's gonna be so fun.
So and Michelle,
yeah,
I think you're a pantser in your planning your books as well as a writer.
Yes, you're right. If I put it on my plan, it doesn't happen. Like it has to just be like organic and exciting.
That's it.
So like all my readers, I'm so sorry. Don't ever count on me for anything ever. But yeah, so I was talking to my family about it too. And I was like, well, what do you think about me like just doing this stuff that seems smart like later or not at all, and then doing the super fun thing right now? And they were like, well, since it means that you will actually write again,
exactly,
go for it. And they're right, because of these two projects that I've been needing to do for over a year now are not only just sitting there not getting done, but like it putting pressure on me that I feel like I can't do anything else because I haven't done those yet. And so I'm just completely stalled out, except for Kindle Bella, which gave me the freedom to explore some other things because I didn't feel like it was taking away from this stuff. So yeah, I just had to embrace the fact that and I've seen a lot of ADHD videos on TikTok where a lot of us experience this weird thing called, if I feel like I have to do it, I will dig my heels in and absolutely not do it. Mm-hmm. So it's that if I have to, then I won't kind of weirdness that our brain does. But anyways, I'm excited because now I'm working on a new story concept and writing fun episodes for my vampire story that I'm loving and enjoying my snow day and my K-dramas, and it's a good time.
Awesome. Right, what about you, Victorine?
Oh, I finished my novella, so I'm super excited about that. And I got it back from the editor, so I'm working on getting that all edited and finished up. And I'm writing again in my Angel Paranormal story, so I'm having a ton of fun with that. I just got a really fun idea the other day, and I'm like, ooh, what if I do this? So I'm having just tons of fun with that one and playing around with cool ideas with it. So it's really fun. I think I'm a pantser in what I write too. I'm just like Michelle. If I have to do it, I'm like, I don't wanna. So I have one that's almost done that I should finish, but I just couldn't work on it. So I think I will work on it just when I'm inspired to, and then it'll be like a candy bar for me to finish it and be all done with it, because I love the story. It's awesome. It's just, if you have to, you feel like, nah, I don't want to.
And I think the name of the game this month or this last week has been, it's okay to pull out of things. It's okay to say, I'm not going to write that. Like, don't pigeonhole yourself in, and because you will beat yourself up about not writing it. Like, I put a lot of books, on my schedule last year, and because of COVID and moving and all these other things, I wasn't able to get the last one done, and I canceled that pre-order. And if I want to write the story still, but I couldn't then. And once you say that to yourself and you get that freedom, it's like a weight is lifted off your back. It's like your creativity can finally flow once you can tell yourself you don't have to do something. So
can I also
keep that in mind?
Before we find out what you've been up to, I'm going to just add one thing that was like a major victory. I actually made my first editing deadline of the year.
Yay!
So when I sent a schedule to my editor when she could expect all my projects, and I made the first one to the day. So yeah,
that is amazing. That is my goal for 2022 as well, is to get my books done before they're due. Before it's like I get it to my editor, I'm like, get this to me in 3 days because I have to publish it in like 6. So good luck. So yes, be very that's amazing, Michelle. Congratulations. What I have been up to, like Laura, I've been super consumed with TikTok, but it's been really profitable, and I'm very, very excited for the prospects that it has. And I haven't turned off all my ad spend, but I've turned off quite a bit of my ad spend. There's a series that I can't quite figure out how to sell on TikTok yet, so I'm just kind of letting my other ads that have always sold it sit in the background. But I feel like I finally got a good system going with my videos, because I have definitely cried a lot over this. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm a failure. So I'm feeling good about that. And then I started writing in my Untouchable series, which is very intimidating for me. Like, I am terrified to write it because I want it to be so good, and I'm worried it's not going to be so good. And it's kind of like a new genre for me because I write so much contemporary, and this one's kind of more not like that. So I don't know. I'm kind of nervous about it, but I'm excited to start writing something. I've been daydreaming about this book, which is a good sign. So we'll see. And I got to start my next women's fiction book too, because I have plans I want to do for launching. So I'm just kind of letting what I want to do that day happen. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I think it's just so important for us to forgive ourselves. Like, I made a post about, publishing expectations and success expectations. And there's some things you can control and some things you can't. And it's so important just to be like, it's okay. Like, I had this realization because I want to make a lot of money, and I want to do a lot of blessings. And we got some really hard news back about my daughter, and I really want to be able to put money towards her foundation. She got diagnosed with a syndrome. And I was like, but if it takes me 5 years to hit this, that I want to hit in 6 months, then that's okay. And so I'm trying to be more forgiving to myself. So this is my message to you: forgive yourself. And if you don't want to do that project, then don't do that project. So, all right. Now we're going to talk about the steps of intimacy, which are very exciting to talk about, because the lead up to a kiss is so unbelievably important. And we're going to talk about how you write a good kiss scene. Although I didn't see if anybody had any questions. Did you guys see that? I'm going to go on Facebook real quick. So who wants to start off? Maybe we should list the stages of intimacy. Maybe.
Sure.
Okay. Why don't somebody who wants to read them off while I look and see if we have any questions?
I think I've got them. Do I have them pulled up? Oh yeah, I do. Okay.
Okay.
So there's a lot of kind of slightly different versions of it out there. So just general reference. But the first stage is eye to body. So you're just seeing the other person. The second one is eye to eye, and that means like the eye contact, voice to voice. You're talking hand to hand or hand to arm, then arm to shoulder. And remember, these are like, each step brings you closer in intimacy with each other. So they're more powerful as you go down the list. Arm to waist or back, and then mouth to mouth. So that's kiss usually. I've seen some places where they throw in like CPR or something. Which they always think is going to be sexier than it would actually be in real life. I don't know. This is like a major drama trope. And then hand to head. So this can be like anywhere, like brushing the hair behind their ear or away from their forehead, or like brushing something off their cheek, or it could be like where his hand comes to like cup her face or something like that. I love that one. And it's interesting that we've talked about this before as Threading Gals, that the hand to head is more intimate than the mouth to mouth. Isn't that fascinating? And then hand to body. And then from there on is where things really pick up into the steamy level. Hand to body can too, but it doesn't like have to necessarily. But then like basically hands and mouths and bodies are getting ever closer together. So you can, I think Amy posted the link to, this is from Jamie Gold's list that she has on her website. She has a lot of resources for authors. So we posted the link to her article about it. So you can check in with that on our Facebook page if you're interested. And maybe if we're awesome without Judy, we'll get the link in the YouTube channel description. I don't know.
I think it's interesting too that you have to hit all of those intimacy levels at one point before the next one actually means something. So like I'm just thinking, because we're talking mouth to mouth, that's an intimate thing. But if it's a fake kiss, right, it can mean something, but it's not as intimate as a kiss that's gone through the levels of intimacy. Right. So like if you haven't had the was it? Oh, I gotta look it up. If you haven't had the like hand to arm or hand to shoulder or waist, then it's not as intimate when they kiss. But it's also not a linear line, so you can't just be like, okay, I hit this one, now I'm kissing. Like you go up and down. It's like a sliding scale. Like you can go, and but I think it is harder. Like so, when we talk about spicy, and you get all the way to like the ending point, right? It makes the other things feel less intimate unless you pull them apart for some reason, like. I don't know, he was mean to her or something like that, then you have to stop that level of intimacy and go back down to the lower intimacies and then climb your way back up to add that tension back in.
So we did have a couple of questions on your post.
Yeah, I see them.
So do you want to go through those? Because some of those kind of, I think, will prompt most of what we need to talk about.
Yep. All right, so Scarlett asks, what book have you read or written? I'd love to hear both that has the best kiss scene in your opinion. So let's go with Laura.
Okay, maybe not. We're calling you out. Oh, dear.
Laura.
This is like trial by fire, girlfriend.
What was the question again? I'm sorry, I zoned out.
Just, like, which of your books has your favorite kiss scene, and or what book have you read that has a good kiss scene?
Okay, so I'm editing this Little Mermaid book, and it actually was a kissing scene. So I'm going to go with this one because it's a forbidden love. So she's betrothed to somebody else who's the prince, but she's in love with Captain Hook, and they steal a kiss, like a moment in this like garden maze, right? There's guards everywhere, and they're trying to just have this moment together. And it's funny because we wrote this sort of bare bones scene of like, and then this happened, and then that happened, like they're talking, they're having a discussion while it's happening. And so then I'm peppering in the bits that kind of make it richer. So, like it would say, oh, her eyes lift to meet mine. And then she'd say something. And then in editing, I add something. So I'm like, oh, how does he feel when her eyes meet his? And it's not always like, I think when people think about kiss scenes, they think about the actual kissing. But like you're saying, like we're trying to explain. I wrote a quote. This is so lame, isn't it?
No.
Because I was trying to think, how do you sum this up? But the build up to a kiss is like a dance. From lingering looks to soft caresses, a lot happens before the actual kiss. And so it's always remembering how it's kind of like this cause and effect. So someone might rake their hand through your hair. How does that person react to that how does it make them feel? And that's the cool thing, because you can be writing a kiss that's going to go badly, or it's with the wrong person. So you can just start saying about how the touch makes her recoil back, or when it feels right, she's feeling warmth and tingly. And I can have so much fun with this. But it's remember that every step, because if you just follow the steps, it will become like a ABC kind of just like a playback. You've got to put in the emotional side, or the thoughts of, we can't be doing this, or I can't believe this is happening, or, you know, something else in there, so that the reader's not just being like, okay, this is just, you know, following the beats.
Yep. There's nothing better than when something unexpected happens.
Yes.
When you think you're leading them down this expected path, and then they end up somewhere they weren't expecting. That's the best.
What about you, Michelle? Do you have one that you read, Laura, though, that's not maybe your book? Is there a book that you like?
So many. I mean, I'm like, sounds like I just read loads of kissing books. No,
I don't blame you.
There's a scene in Michelle's book, a man with shaving board, and they're on a bed. The bed scene, that's a good kissing scene. And the funny thing is, it's one of those where you haven't got a whole load of detail of what exactly is happening. And I think that's better, because you kind of fill in the blanks. And it really focuses on kind of like, she's kind of a bit like, can't believe this is happening moment. And it's like such a build up through the story to finally get to that that moment. Yeah, and I love it that
it's interesting for our discussion too, because it wasn't their first kiss. The first kiss happened in like the second chapter when they were strangers, basically. But the reason it was so amazing, even though it wasn't their first kiss, was because all the conflict had come in. So Absolutely. Before that first kiss, there was no conflict in the story, except that they were never going to see each other again, they thought. And then the conflict comes in, and that is what keeps kissing good. Or, you know, if you're a senior writer, what keeps your intimate scenes still having tension is you have to keep things that are keeping them separated, leaving the reader guessing like, okay, like this is nice, but I feel all this suspense about what's going to happen going forward, or what's going to tear them apart, or like, you know, if it just feels like a happily ever after in that moment, then everything after that is going to be boring. Right?
Yep.
Perfect.
That's so nice of you to remember that kiss.
It was a good kiss.
Were you going to ask me next? Okay. So I was thinking about this, and for some reason, I just really, really, really enjoyed writing the kiss in my book in that same series called First Kiss Trainwreck. And it starts off with her having like a really bad kiss at the beginning. And then the really good kiss is with someone she's always seen as just a best friend. I think a lot of people don't love the best friends to lovers trope because they feel like there's not like enough excitement or attention there. But I think that kiss really showed what was possible in creating that like dynamic, because in that moment it was a confession for him, and it changed the way she saw him and felt for him, and she was hurting at the same time because she wasn't ready to accept, but at the same time she wanted to because it was so magical. And so I just think it was the complex storm of all the emotions she was feeling, you know, that really made that kiss impactful. And if I was going to say like one of my favorite kisses, and it would have to be in a drama lately. And there is a kiss that kills me. It's in a drama called Record of Youth, and you can watch it on Netflix. And I don't want to like be spoilersville, but it's not necessarily my favorite drama because of the ending. But it's probably my favorite kiss of all time in a drama. Not only because the leads had really good chemistry, but because there's this moment where like he is wanting to kiss her so bad, and he like basically gets her permission, and then she kisses him, and then she says, or he says, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. Anyway, then she says, he says, you can kiss me whenever you want to. You don't have to ask. And then there's this second, and she like grabs his collar and pulls him down to her. And it's just like, I don't know. So you could even like do a YouTube search for Record of Youth Kiss. And it's just so good. The dynamics of like the moment between them, the space between them, and the give and take between each other, and what it meant and how it changed their relationship. It had all the really good pieces of it internally, and then just the shot was really good. And that's one thing that we all have to think about is kind of positioning of the body during kisses, because so many times how they're facing each other, how they're situated physically, changes the dynamic of the kiss a lot. So like if you're just standing next to each other with your arms around each other, it's like pretty standard, right? But in this one, she was in the car and he was like outside leaning in through the car window. So it completely changed the physicality of where they were in relation to each other. And so anytime like you want to just change things up and make it a little bit more exciting, just change the physical arrangement of where they are in the scene. That's it for me, for now.
Perfect. What about you, Michelle? I mean, not Michelle, Victorine.
All right. The favorite kiss that I can think of right now, there's so many awesome kisses, but my favorite one that I have written, I think, is probably in A Deception of Massive Proportion. It's about a rock star who wears a mask. He tried to get somewhere with his singing before he put on a mask, but nobody would give him a chance. He didn't get anywhere. So he put on a mask and he won some contest somewhere and became super famous. So the mask is super symbolic, right? Because he is hiding who he is behind this mask. And he is starting to open up to this woman and starting to trust her and become more intimate with her. And their very first kiss, it happens like on the sidewalk. So it's not like not like they're super alone, but it's night. So they have, a little bit of privacy. And as they're kissing, her fingers go up and just touch the edge of his mask. And he thinks, we're in his point of view. And he's like, what do I do? Do I let her take my mask off? Do I stop her? Is her designed to see who I am? Or is she just kissing me for me? And then during the kiss, he decides it's okay if she takes my mask off. And I just felt like that was just really super powerful. And she doesn't, not during that, kiss. But I felt like it was such a vulnerable moment for him to come to the conclusion that I'm okay if she knows who I really am during that intimate moment. And so that to me was a powerful kiss.
And then one that you like.
One that I didn't write. One of my favorite books is Cinder and Ella by Kelly Oram, I think. And their first kiss is another vulnerable one. She has just revealed to him that she has a bunch of scars from where she was burned, and he didn't know she had this major, problem. And they got to know each other online, so he didn't really know who she was. But their very first kiss is right after she confesses all of this huge emotional stuff to him. And so they're emotionally closer. They kiss. And then he's a famous actor. And then a bunch of paparazzi come and, start flashing their cameras at her. And there's this big, huge hoopla over him and her kissing. And I thought it was really powerful because it was right after she was super vulnerable and sharing something that she hadn't shared with him. And in the entire book, you're almost near the end, and she finally decides to share this with him. So I thought it was good. So I like the vulnerable kisses.
So I think I have a couple of my own, and I know that sounds really conceited, but I have 57 books, so I've written a lot of kiss scenes. And I know I've talked about this one, but in terms of like the vulnerability, the one that I wrote for The Wedding with Her Ex, where he comes back into her life 10 years later, and they're trying to catch her dad, which is like in having trouble with the law. And he ends up staying with her because they're pretending to have a wedding so that it can cause her dad to come out of hiding, and then they can catch him. And her ex it works for the CIA or the FBI or one of these, I can't remember, but anyways. And she notices at the beginning of the story that he has these scars on his body, and she doesn't know why. And he just is very closed off with her about it. And then when they, there's all the steps of intimacy that happen, even if they have kissed in the past, it has to restart over again because, they've hurt each other. They're both hurting. And then there's the kissing. He pulls her to where they start kissing, and she touches the hem of his shirt because she wants to feel his scars. And then she ends up taking his shirt off and touches his scars. And it's this really intimate moment between the two of them because it's like him, like you said, letting her in and being vulnerable to her, which is probably, I think, more powerful than just like a lot of other kisses when they are like something that I've been holding on to, but yet I'm going to give it to you. So that was like one of my favorite. And then the other one is in my rule number 3, just because I can transpose the 2 kisses, where her first kiss with the guy that she's convinced is going to marry her and is her lifelong crush, and she bites him in the middle of the kiss, and it's just very like mechanical, like because she's like, what do I put my face, what do I do with my lips? There's just like no emotion there. And then then he sticks his tongue in her mouth and she just chomps down on it, opposed to the kiss with her best friend. Because then afterwards, she's embarrassed. She runs out of there. She calls her best friend. She's like, come pick me up. I just did the most embarrassing thing. He comes to get her. And then they live across from each other. And she's like, okay, you have got to tell me what I did wrong. Like, I need to practice on you so that the next time I can kiss, it'll be better. And her best friend's like, no, get away from me. I want nothing to do with you. And she's like, someday when I'm dead and at my funeral and I had only had cats and I'm all alone, you're the only one there. You're going to have to give my eulogy about how you should have kissed me back in when I could have figured it out. And then I would have had a boyfriend and got married, blah, blah. So then he just kind of turns around. He just lays one on her because she's just annoying the crap out of him. And like the fact that she like had all the feelings and the emotions and it took away from the mechanics and like, how do I do this and what do I do and those sorts of things. So those are probably my 2 favorite written. Oh, I would have to say I don't have a lot of ones that I've read that I like, but I do love the one in Never Been Kissed at the end when she finally gets the kiss and he comes running down with a grand gesture. That one and North and South, when he goes through the steps of intimacy super fast and then it's kissing at the end. It's so good. So this was good for kissings, but I still kind of wanted to focus a little bit on the buildup. So because I want to talk about how to write a good kiss scene in another video, because I think the stages of intimacy are so important, and there's some things that are skipped. Because you have like normally a kiss happens, let's say middle to second, middle to the 3/4 of the way through, right? And you have all these steps of intimacy that you go up. So you have like the first time they meet each other and they see each other, and then they talk to each other and stuff like that. But I think it's also important that inside of a kiss scene, you do some of these steps of intimacy. So you have like the broader view for the book, but inside the kiss scene. So like having had a co-writer, we've learned each other's strengths and weaknesses, and a couple of like my co-writers weren't so great at that build-up scene. They just got to the kissing, and that doesn't produce a satisfying kiss scene when they just go and they smack their lips together and then they're good to go. So what would you be your, like, if you're a person who's struggling with kiss scenes and it's not the actual like kissing, it's all the build-up, what advice would you give? I know this is kind of hard when we don't have like let's write a kiss scene together and I'll tell you why I would do this or why I would do that. And so some of it's instinct.
I taught a class at our conference called The Secrets of Skinship. And I'll just kind of rehash like the main points of that really quick. So skinship comes from some Asian countries, start kind of in Japan with some different plays on words like relationship and skin, for example, or where skinship comes from, but it's also like friendship and skin, or lots of different things. Basically, it comes from this whole neurological aspect of the human body that allows people to bond through touch. And there's a lot of scientific research behind this, a lot of really groundbreaking knowledge that is coming to the forefront about the fact that there are completely separate neural pathways from our skin to our brain, specifically designed to bond humans together. It has no other function than that. And so, and the brain actually, when humans touch each other in a way that is like acceptable and pleasurable for the other person, the brain starts mapping that person as being part of themselves. So it's this really, really interesting science. And the more you get into it, the more you realize how important all the like small touches are and why it builds intimacy. Because intimacy literally is about two becoming one, right? Like bleeding over into each other. And so that's why just like slight touches, like your fingers brushing with, if you pass them a cup, it starts to build that neural pathway to that person becoming part of you. Okay. And so I always try and look at, as you're going through these steps of intimacy, you will recognize you're not going to have them doing it like, ooh, I want to be closer to you, so let's touch hands, or like, let me rub your shoulder. I mean, sure, that happens in real life. Like, you know, the guy puts his arm around you and like rubs your arm because he's like, I'm interested in you, right? No, in a book, we're trying to do it in ways that speak to like trying to have these steps happening while there's all kinds of conflict going on, right? And so you have to get really tricky about it. You will recognize tropes like that one of them covers the other person's mouth because they want them to be quiet. They save them from falling down by grabbing and pulling them close, or protecting them from like something falling. And, you know, leading them somewhere by grabbing their wrist. Like I said, you know, touching, like getting something off their cheek or pulling a leaf out of their hair. Sometimes it's things like even just standing next to each other in an elevator and their shoulders are brushing together. All of those things are stages of intimacy. And so you can start looking at, okay, which stage of intimacy have I fulfilled? And the interesting thing is that if you do skip a stage, right, you like move ahead, there's an impact that has on the other person, because they're not necessarily ready for that yet. And that can be a really good thing. It can make them be like, whoa, what do I think about this? Because they're not quite ready for it. So I think just remember that if you're trying to pull them towards being ready for a kiss, you have to take them through all these steps in ways that's kind of against that character's will almost, or accidental, or has very practical reasons. And then as soon as those things happen, you have to show what is going on inside of that character in response to that touch. Because we can't like show the you know, nerve endings sparking up and a message running to the brain like, ooh, I like this. But you can show their internal thoughts of like, ooh, I'm feeling this. What does this mean? What do I think about it? And most of the time they can pull back, and you kind of have to like start from scratch sometimes if things go wrong. So there's a lot of different ways that you can really pull these different stages in and make them work while not diminishing, in fact, increasing the tension in the story.
Exactly. Yeah. I think, go ahead, Victory.
I was just going to say, I completely agree with that. I think it's also important to, if someone's having trouble, like wanting to just throw the characters together and all of a sudden they're kissing, I would tell them, try and lengthen that out as much as possible. Do the almost kiss thing, create that longing, create more emotional connection first before you go ahead and have the kiss, because the more your reader feels like they're emotionally invested in each other, the more meaningful that kiss will be. So I would definitely say wait to at least half the book if you can to have them kiss. And if you can, push it a little further and give them more wanting, more longing, more desire for it. And then when they finally do kiss, that buildup will be better and it'll be more satisfying.
And I think this is when watching Regency movies or reading Regency is really going to help you out, because back then there wasn't as much touching going on. And so every touch that they did have was really important. I mean, we all like swooned at Mr. Darcy's hand flex. Like all he did was go like this. But there was so much meaning behind it because of the stuff they set up. And so like the other thing is being careful. I just lost my train of thought. Oh.
Well, I'll jump in with something I was going to say. What makes the stages of intimacy work at all is that they are accepted with pleasure, right? Because like if like the plumber comes and accidentally brushes my shoulder as I'm leaning into the bathroom, I do not start having like intimate bonds for him because we brush shoulders or something, you know, like it's, or like, you know, just any kind of touch doesn't necessarily respond that way, right? You have to show that it's because of attraction and chemistry and emotion. And I think this can be really important. We got some questions about like steamy readers and steamy books where they start out like all the way at a 12 when they open the book, and then they have to build that emotion from there. And I think that is like the main point, is that in those books there may be like physical connections, but they're not connecting on an emotional level at all at the very beginning, because they're complete strangers to each other. And if they have, you know, viewpoints where that physical side of, you know, an interaction doesn't have anything to do with the heart, then it's not going to be an actual stage of intimacy, if that makes sense. It's not intimacy until emotions and attraction are shared between the two. And so that, even though you might have the physical action of an intimate 12 going on, you're not actually intimate at a level 12. Does that make sense? The intimacy comes as the relationship grows and that neural bonding to that person occurs. So that's why by the end of the book, when they have traced that relationship through all the stages of actual intimacy, then they're much more able to like have an experience that connects on a physical and emotional level, which is what I think would be the, you know, point there.
I also
Did you want to say something, Laura?
Yeah. I was thinking as well, it's the not touching that can make a really big impact. So I have enemies to lovers, flirting with my enemy. She's trying to get intel out of this CEO who she thinks is trying to sabotage her business because he's got a thing for her. So she's like, this is my opportunity to get him. But they take dance lessons together. And that dancing, I love putting dancing in books because there's so many opportunities where they have to clutch the waist or, you know, be pressed up really close, or, you know, they're stood side by side waiting for instructions and they're just lingering very closely together, but not actually touching. And there's a scene where he makes a picnic for her and it's nighttime and there's stars out and they lay on this picnic blanket and she just becomes so aware that their pinkies are like hovering so close together but not quite touching. And then she realizes she can't get him to open up because he's very closed. So she's like, I'll try and be vulnerable and say something about me. But this character, Elle, she's still reeling from the grief of losing her mum. And she doesn't even realize how much she was grieving. So when she starts to talk about her mum, all of those emotions start crashing down. And he just takes her hand and says, come here. And he really gently brings her into a hug. And I feel like people do not write about hugs enough in romance, because that hug, for me, like a hug can be even more intimate than that first kiss. and they go into like an almost kiss, but it doesn't happen because they're interrupted or whatever. So you can have this real like push and pull, and the almost having that skin contact, and then it's and then it goes away. And it's important to keep ramping it up and then down, so the reader's not like, oh well, I know the next time this is going to happen. You keep that unpredictability, so it's like real life where you're like, oh, is she going to do it this time? Or yeah.
And I think also establishing, like you were saying, good characters and having their motivations and knowing what they care about. Like I honestly, if you want to know really good, in my view, really good steps of intimacy, watch North and South, because oh my goodness. But there is a point where she sees him, people shaking hands, and she's from the South, and that's just, you don't shake hands with people. It's just not what you do. And there comes a point where she's starting to have feelings for him. And then at a party, she kind of sees him with another lady, and she gets jealous, and she walks up to him and she takes his hand and shakes it. And the look on his face, it's like, I can't find it anywhere. I gotta watch this again. But it's just like, he just kind of like, oh wow, okay. Well, you've established that we don't shake hands, but you're shaking my hand. You're touching me. And then she's just like, see, I can learn, or I'm learning the ways of the North. And it's so unbelievably impactful. And they're just shaking hands, but because it's established beforehand that that's just not something she does, that she's above that, and then she's taking his hand, is just like, oh. And then you watch the kiss scene, and it's literally like their trains pull up and they see each other. It's like eye to eye, and then eye to body, because he comes out of the train, and then she's like, oh, and then they go and they start talking, and then she goes over and they sit down, and then he like leans in, so body, like body to body, and then he touches her hand, and then she kind of stops talking, and then she grabs his hand and she kisses his hand, and then they make out. It is so good. But it's like, it's literally those steps of intimacy that happen to the buildup. And if it had just been like, their scene ended and then it's those two kissing, you would not have had that satisfaction of seeing this build up and build up and build up, and then you finally get the final hurrah. So if you haven't watched North and South, watch it, because it's so good. And they just take those, and it's like, even there's a point where she's pouring his tea. They've already had, like, she does not like him. She thinks he's mean to his workers. And she gives him a tea, like a cup of tea, and his fingers just gently brush hers as he takes it from her. And she's like startled from it, but he's got like, Mr. Thornton has like the best intense gaze. Like, he's just like melting. And anyways, it's such a good movie. But it's those.
I'm all like, oh no, we got Amy talking about North and South again.
Well, Michelle refuses to watch it, so I just have to paint the picture for her. Let's go through the whole movie. So it starts with just kidding. But it's that really good intimacy. So all right. Well, I know we had some more questions. Let me see. Can you invert? And you talked about inverting the beats. So, okay. So we're going to end here about talking about steps to intimacy. Next week, we're going to talk about establishing emotional intimacy, because we kind of touched on this. And, but these are such important things that if you do not have these in place, then you will not have a satisfying kiss. You really probably won't even, if you're a steamy author, you're not going to have a satisfying intimate scene. You really need these steps in your writing in order to hit that. So does anyone have anything they want to mention?
Yeah, before we go, there was one other comment on there that I wanted to address. They wanted to know when the kiss moves into steamy, like from sweet to steamy kiss. And it's all about the hands and the body. I wouldn't talk too much about tongues and a sweet kiss, but you can in level 3. But really the steam factor starts coming in when you start really describing hands and bodies touching and doing other things. So that's what takes it to steamier.
What's going through your head too.
Yes, and the arousal thing.
Yeah.
So and I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, so just be cognizant that, that those are the things that move it into steamy territory. It's not necessarily like, you can have a kiss go for like 3 or 4 or 5 pages, and it wouldn't be steamy unless you were describing all those other things.
And I think when it comes less about the feelings and more mechanical, more what the physical feeling is and less emotional, I think, as well. So, but you also don't want to focus so much on mechanical. And anyways, yeah, that's my personal opinion, is when it gets more steamy and when they're touching pink parts, then you're kind of going in the other direction. So
I would say so.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope this was helpful. And that you guys have some place, a jumping off point to start writing these really good kiss scenes to make readers wanting your characters to kiss. So, all right. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.